Good morning, class. How are you all? Kumain na ba kayo? Are you all well rested?
Yes, sir.
That's good to hear. Since you were all good, let's take a moment of silence and pray. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, so before we start the discussion, I actually prepared an icebreaker for today. For this, are you all familiar with the game word search? Yan, word search. In Tagalog, hanap salita. Has anyone heard, has any one of you heard this game yet? That is good. I am glad that you all know this game. But for those who haven't heard this yet, these are the mechanics. So for this, the main objective is to locate a list of hidden words within a grid of letters. So I'll be flashing a table later on, and you'll be finding hidden words that I'll be giving it to you. Okay, so these words can be positioned horizontally, vertically, or diagonally in eight possible directions. So it could be either pahiga or pataas or diagonal. Yan, yung mga directions niya. Meron pa nga, mga nakabaliktad. And it's up to you how can you or how are you going to strategize to find those words. Wait. So that is all. Okay na ba tayo sa mechanics? Pwede na ba tayo magsagot? All right. So since we're all ready, here are the words, and here is the table. So here we have the word self properties, doing hope, modern biology, Schleiden, cell theory, microscope, Robert Hooke, and Schwann. So, sabay-sabay natin niyang hahanapin. So, for the first word, so let's check if yung mga sinagot ninyo kanina tama. Okay. So, yan no, tama yung cell property. Well then, let's proceed here. So, before tayo mag-start sa ating main topic, I just wanted to know if natatandaan niyo pa yung ating lesson on our last meeting. Can anyone raise their hand if they know or if they still remember ano yung discussion natin last meeting? Okay, isip-isip. How about you, Mr. Bato?
Um, Last time, sir, we talked about the cell as the basic unit of life.
Thank you so much for that, Bagsik. Yes, correct. We discussed the lesson, the basic unit of life, which is cell. So no, I'm sorry. Cell is the smallest unit of what, sir? Smallest unit of
Life,
life. Tama. So, yan. For this, does anyone have any, meron pa silang knowledge na want nila i-share before we start? That is correct. We also discussed the different types of cells. So, meron tayong dalawang types of cell. What are those kasi? Prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. And then, na-discuss din natin yung difference between animal and plant cells. Okay, very good class. I am glad that you still remember. Now, the basic units of cell has its own origin. With the help of modern biology, it introduced the cell theory. And holding on with that thought, what is the cell theory? Does anyone have any idea what is cell theory? Meron ba may nabasa sa book or nakita sa internet, mga nakagit or Mga sabi-sabi sa ibang teachers, mga co-teachers ko, yung mga narinig ba kayo about cell theory? Hindi pa? Wala pa? Well, no worries, no worries class. Since this is our main topic today, I'll be happy to discuss this with you. So first, here are our objectives. The first one is define the cell theory. So at the end of this discussion, you should be able to define the cell theory, identify the scientists behind the discovery of the cell theory, and understand the importance of the cell theory. Ayan. So we'll see if ma-achieve ba natin itong objectives na to at the end of our discussion. I'm sorry. Okay, so here's the introduction of the cell theory. So what is cell theory? But can you read this for me, please? Thank you. And that is the cell theory. Cell theory is a scientific theory that all living organisms are made up of cells as the smallest functional unit. So remember, class, that this is the general definition of cell theory. But the cell theory also states that, or the professor states that all living things are composed of one or more cells. Ayan, itong naka-highlight na pink here, one or more cells. And then after that, the cell is the basic unit of life. So sinabi dito na the cell is the basic unit of life since we all function using uh, using cells. So cells kasi, for example, our brain cells, it helps us to think, di ba? And then sa reproduction, yung ating cells, sperm cells, and then egg cells. And then lastly, new cells arise from existing cells. So, matatakal natin yan later on sa ating timeline sa cell theory. Okay, so moving forward, behind the theory, there are scientists that are greatly contributed to its existence. Being presented is the timeline of the history of cell theory. So yan, nakasulat dito, ano? From the year 1665, there's Robert Hooke. In the year 1670, there's Anton van Leeuwenhoek. In the year 1838, there's Matthias Schleiden. In the year 1809, there is Theodor Schwann. And in the year 1858, there is Rudolf Virchow. And in the year 1940 to 1950, there is Crick, Watson, and Franklin. Excuse me, class. Okay. So isa-isahin natin, ano? So in the year 1665, for Robin Cook, he observes that microorganisms through a microscope and named them as cells. So paano niya ba ito na-discover? He discovered it with the use of a cork. Alam niyo ba yung cork? For example, sa wine, sa mga ancient wine natin, kasi ibang wine natin yun, mas meron na silang mga plastic covers, no? Unlike before na cork na lang talaga siya. Well, here kasi sa wine na to, um, yung wine na 'to, yung point niya, as in inobserve talaga siya ni Robert Cook. Ang sabi niya para 'tong mga small small boxes, mga ganyan. And then, when he observed microorganisms through cells, pinangalanan niya yun as cells kasi para daw siyang court or para siyang mga small rooms, gano'n. So then, after that, in the year 1670s, for Anton van Leeuwenhoek, he describes microorganisms such as bacteria and protozoans. So, Anton van Leeuwenhoek, so na-discover niya yung mga iba't ibang uri ng mga microorganisms and he proposed the idea or the bacteria and protozoans. Actually, later on, in the advances of lenses, microscope construction, and staining techniques, there are also scientists that see other components inside the cells. Pero di na tayo mag-focus on that since we already tackled that on the last topic. We're just going to focus here in the cell theory. Okay, so after that, sorry class. Okay, so here in the year 1838, for Matthias Schleiden, here's a botanist proposes that plants are made up of cells. So pag sinabi kasi nating botanist, what does it mean? Tama. It came from the root word botany, which is the study of plants. So here, it is stated dito that plants are made up of cells. Okay, yes, tama. And moving forward in the next year after that, in 1839, Theodore Schwann, a zoology. Zoologist naman. Ano yung, what does it mean kapag naririnig natin yung word or yung professional zoologist? Tama. You are all correct, guys. So it came from the root word zoo or zoology, meaning that we are studying the animals or the animal kingdom. So here he proposes that animals are made up of cells. So actually, this is the basis or the foundation of the cell theory, since they have proposed that the cell theory or that the living organisms are made up of cells. So yun, no? Si Matthias Schleiden proposes that plants are made up of cells. Si Theodor Schwann proposes that animals are made up of cells. Moving forward, here is an important scientist that greatly contributed to the history of the cell theory. Here is in the year 1858, Rudolf Virchow. Okay, so Rudolf Virchow, based from his famous conclusion, omnicellula is cellula, meaning that new cells arise from pre-existing cells. Uh, So yan yung isa sa ating mga statement, no, sa cell theory. Ano nga kasi ulit yung 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 tatlong meaning ng ating unified cell theory? Can anyone tell me? That is correct. So all living things are composed of one or more cells. The cell is the basic unit of life, and the new cells arise from existing cells. That is correct. I am proud of you guys for remembering that. So ayan na nga. So sa contribution na to na ni Rudolf Virchow, it also supports other theories such as the theory of endosymbiosis. So sa theory of endosymbiosis, this explains the origin of eukaryotic cells. So it was theorized that the prokaryotic cell was ingested by a larger prokaryotic cell, turning it into a eukaryotic cell. So in simple terms, kapag sinabi kasi natin prokaryotic cell, what is a prokaryotic cell? That is correct. So prokaryotic cell is just a simple cell. It does not have or does not include any nucleus, or some of it does not include any nucleus. So ayun siya, no? So for example, this is the prokaryotic cell, the small prokaryotic cell. Then this is the larger prokaryotic cell. So yung theory of endosymbiosis is that this larger prokaryotic cell ingested this smaller prokaryotic cell, and that smaller prokaryotic cell turned into the nucleus. That's why it became the eukaryotic cell. So yun yung theory of endosymbiosis. Are we clear on that? Do you have any questions? Wala. Thank you so much. Well, moving forward, so that is Rudolf Virchow. Okay, so moving forward in the year 1670s, Francis Crick, James Watson, and Rosalind Franklin stated that the DNA composed of two helical strands. So ano yung connection nito sa ating cells? Ano nga ba? Since the DNA is a part of the nucleus, since it is included as a genetic information in the nucleus, it is also included in the cell theory. So dito, they said that the DNA is composed of two helical strands. No? Nakita niyo na ba yung mga visual or graphics ng DNA? Di ba yung parang two helicals na ganyan. Di ako nagpapantropyo guys, pero ganyan. Ayan. So, ganun yung kinompose nila sa theory nila here. Pero isipin niyo yun the cell is not visible to the naked eye. However, they also saw the DNA inside the cell, diba? So that was great. Okay, so that concludes the history or the timeline of the cell theory. So just to recall, can you recall what are the contributions of these scientists again? That is correct. Robert Hooke observes microorganisms and named them as cells by the use of quark. How about the second one? That is correct. So Anton van Leeuwenhoek discovers or describes microorganisms such as bacteria and protozoa. Do you know about the next one? So in the year 1835, Matthias Schleiden stated that or proposes that plants are made up of cells. All right. So Theodor Schwann, he proposes that the animals are made up of cells as well. So tama lang yun. So they are actually winning in that year naman, 'di ba? Since it was just a year ago since Theodor Schwann concluded that animals are also made up of cells. So thank you so much for participating. How about the next one? Very good. Rudolf Virchow, he greatly contributed to that cell theory. He says that new cells arises from pre-existing cells. Galing. Very good class. How about the last one? Or Crick, Watson, and Franklin. Thank you. That is correct. So, in the year 1940 to 1950, Crick, Watson, and Franklin composed, they stated that DNA is composed of two helical strands. And then, I am so proud of you, class. Very good. All right. So, moving forward, um, here, what is actually the importance of cell theory? So, Bagsik, can you read this out loud, please? Thank you so much, Bagsik. So yeah, the cell theory also observes as a basis for advancement in various fields of biology. So by elucidating how cells function in health and disease, researchers can develop new treatments, vaccines, and technologies that impact human health, agriculture, and environmental conservation. So tama yan, no? So cell theory is very important since we are still discovering other stuff or other researches or studies that may help our community. So, for example, we haven't found the right cure or the correct treatments to, for example, STD, to HIV, STD, cancer. So, so they are still in search. We are still in search for the cure for this disease. So that is the importance of our self healing. So actually, that is all for this for today's discussion. Does anyone of you have any question before we proceed?
Answer.
You um okay. So before we continue, what is the cell theory again? Ano nga kasi yung cell theory? Yes. Yes, that is correct. The cell theory is a scientific theory that all living organisms are made up of cells as the smallest functional unit. So that is just a general definition, okay? But the meaning, the statements for us, cell theory is actually all living organisms are composed of one or more cells. The cell is the basic unit of life, and new cells arise from existing cells. You Okay, so how about the cell theory timeline? Can someone summarize it and tell me? Raise your hand if you know the answer. Very good, class. Thank you so much for listening and participating for today's discussion. Well, before we proceed, we do have an online quiz and that'll be our next meeting. So before tayo mag-start on another discussion, mag-quiz muna tayo about today's discussion. Unless you wanted to take it right now. Hindi. Hindi ba? Alright, so we will have our quiz or online quiz on the next meeting, okay? And also for your assignment, your task is to design an informative infographic or brochure that effectively explains the key principles of the cell theory. Yun yung tatlo. Ano kasi yung tatlo? All living organisms are made up of cells. Ito yung pangalawa. That is correct. The cell is the basic unit of life. Pangatlo, correct. So the new cells arise from existing cells. So yun yung key principles of the cell theory. So including the dito included din yung mga contributions of important scientists, yun nga sina Robert Hooke, Anthony von Leeuwenhoek, Matthias Schleiden, Theodor Schwann, sino pa ba? Uh, Theodor Schwann, ayan, lahat sila si Rudolf Virchow and Frank Watson and Franklin. That can also include the significance of cell theory in modern biology. So for the rubrics on this assignment, I'll be sending that to your group chat later on. But before we end the class, do you have any question about the assignment and the quiz? Meron ba?
Saan po?
Thank you so much. Well, if you don't have any questions, thank you so much for participating in today's class and thank you so much for listening as well. Um, always stay safe and drink a lot of water. Okay? Good day, class. See you on the next meeting.
Good day,
Bye-bye.
sir.
Good day.